So Norway has incredible gas resources as well, and Norway's been sensible enough to basically, not just reserve their gas for domestic use, but they also they've kept most of their gas basically in public hands, and those private companies that do operate in Norway, the public takes like a 40% ownership stake. They also charge a large super profit tax. And what it's basically meant is that all this money which has come from their gas wealth, or their gas and oil wealth, has gone into a sovereign wealth fund. And that sovereign wealth fund is now worth trillions of US dollars. And Norway's only a small country of about, just over 5 million people. It's similar to Melbourne or New Zealand. And what it's basically meant is that per person now, this sovereign wealth fund's worth hundreds of thousands of US dollars. And that's because they tax their mineral wealth properly. They set it up in the benefit of citizens. Now, if you compare that to Australia, we haven't done anything like that. And especially on the East Coast, I'd argue that gas exports are actually making us poorer because it's forcing up the cost of domestic energy so much. Like, I honestly think that the East Coast of Australia would be richer if we never had built those gas terminals and we were paying the old price for gas, which was incredibly cheap, and we'd have cheap gas in our homes. You also have cheap electricity. But unfortunately, we've decided to go the other route and done the opposite of what Norway's done. We haven't even bothered to reserve it like Western Australia's done, and we're paying the ultimate price.
You're so right. I was looking at the World, I think the World Bank figures on the gross domestic product per capita, which I think is a good guide to how rich people are. And it said that Australia's 65,000, that's the average. Singapore with nothing, absolutely nothing except a port and a financial centre, 82,000, and Norway 106,000. 106,000. Norway, I agree with you. I think Norway is the model, and we should be as wealthy as Norway because we have similar mineral or oil or energy wealth as Norway has. And why are we 65 and Norway's 106,000? It is really extraordinary that we should be so bad, and I can only blame the politicians for that.
Yeah, look, you are 100% correct there. That Norway has set the model for how all energy-rich countries should operate. Basically, if you've got this ginormous mineral wealth, you shouldn't allow multinational firms to come in and basically, sell all your products or your wealth that you own and effectively, pay very little in the process to do it. So Norway's done it well, and the reason why their GDP per capita is so high is partly because of this ginormous sovereign wealth fund that they've set up. So they've effectively, as I said before, they've collected all these taxes and royalties from their mineral wealth, which is spread over a small number of people, and they've basically set up this sovereign wealth fund. And the sovereign wealth fund only invests overseas, so they don't allow it to invest within Norway. And the reason why they do that is because if you invest it overseas, you actually devalue your currency because you're buying other currencies. Mm. And so you keep your exporting firms competitive as well. Norway has been very sensible on that part, and that's one of the reasons why they're incredibly wealthy country. And Australia should have done the same thing. And the other thing Norway does that Australia doesn't do is it doesn't run a ginormous immigration program to water down their wealth. So since 1960, Australia's population has grown by 160%. So we're about 10 million people in 1960, and we're now 26 million people. Norway's population, and this goes for all the Scandinavian countries, has only grown by about 25% over the same time period. So can you imagine if Norway had grown at the same rate as our population? Their mineral wealth would be getting spread over, more than twice as many people as they do now. Yes. And that therefore erodes your per household wealth because you're effectively spreading the mineral wealth of the nation over more people. And that's just a silly thing to do. But that's exactly what Australia does. We grow as fast as we can population-wise. We've got a fixed mineral endowment. We don't even tax it properly. And all that means is that the per-person wealth of the country is shrinking as we keep growing the population so quickly and we don't tax it properly. So we've got it all back to front in Australia.